don't know. Anyway, it's good to be back with you. It's the beginning of a new week as we do the countdown into the rest of the holidays. And I hope your holiday went well. I hope that whole weekend and whatever you did and the, small group that you gathered with, right? Small group that you gathered with, you guys had a great time and there was a lot of meaningful stuff. And I also hope, one of the things I was thinking about, one of the things we do here is we're not just a bunch of happy talk, right? We also talk about things that hurt and we prepare for them. And we did have a lot of talk between us here on the show about, preparing for that holiday get together if you had to be around people that are hurtful to you and that you could expect would be hurtful in some way and how to immunize yourself against that. We still have, I think you can still, I think we have a whole course up on boundaries.me about, kind of preparing for the holidays and the relationships you're going to have to negotiate and a bunch of stuff with your time and energy and all of that. I think that's up there on boundaries.me. You can go check that out. But it is a good thing to be proactive. So I hope you did that. I hope you didn't get hurt. I hope you had fulfilling times. And as we look forward into the beginning of the rest of the year, we're going to help you do that. So, speaking of which, let's give the number 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774. One more time, for those of you who want to call in, 844-940-2774 is our number. Also, been hearing from so many of you about, we have to jump on the way the whole world works right now with our Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, which we're doing. So hop on there and take a look. There's some cool things happening there because we do specific one-time events. Like the divorce recovery, the anxiety event that's coming up. We've got a bunch of those planned for 2021. And there are packages where you can get all of those for almost the price of one. There's lifetime memberships that's going to go away at this particular price since we're adding so much. There's a lot that goes with that, but we're still going to offer it in this one sale. You can do your lifetime where you get everything, and you get it as long as we are here. Whatever our our lifetime is. But that's a go. And there's a bunch of bundles on there. And also, I wanted to mention I have had a lot of, speaking of boundaries.me, I've had a lot of examples of my daughters coming to me with the biggest surprise look on their face, by the way. They're like, why would anybody be listening to you? But their friends and sorority sisters will come up to them and say, yeah, I'm a member of boundaries.me and it's helping me in my relationships and all this kind of stuff. And my daughters are going, what? You listen to my dad? The point being that we started talking, our team started talking about it would be a great gift for some of you parents and grandparents to give, to your kids, kind of like they're taking a lot of other courses, right, in high school and college. Here are courses that can actually prepare them for things they're going to have to deal with. And so it might be a good time to do that for the holidays. All right. So speaking of boundaries.me, we have our email question that came in. I love this one. This person wanted to remain anonymous, so we're going to call him Unicorn because we've never had a question this beautiful, and you have to be a unicorn. I mean, nobody is this smart, right? So let's read it. It says, I am a caring person. In today's world, that kind of feels like a unicorn sometimes. I am a caring person and am very open about my own struggles with family and friends. At the same time, when family or friends who are less open confide in me, they're less open. When family or friends who are less open confide in me, I have trouble knowing when to keep it confidential. Okay, but they're less open, but they are confiding. So I'm assuming that when they do, that's kind of a special deal for them. That's kind of a big deal. If they're less open in general, but they confide in you, which is a compliment to you, actually, they feel that you're safe. Have trouble knowing when to keep it confidential. Is it always gossip when the intention of sharing with someone else is to help, not hurt? It's a great question because it gets into so many different dynamics um, of keeping confidences and who we talk to, as well as, that's one side of it. we do want to keep our confidences. Um, you know, people need to be trusted. And I I don't know. I don't know if I just got this from being a psychologist, or just it was always something that seemed really, really important to me. But I know that one of my highest values is if somebody tells me something in confidence, that goes in a lockbox, right? They're sharing the treasure of their heart with you. And so they want that to be sort of a safe deposit box where it's not like they're leaving it out on the counter, they're locking it up somewhere safe when they tell you in confidence. So the general rule is we don't share stuff that people have told us that is important to them to keep confidential. Okay. A. Now, B, it sounds like a lot of times you feel the pressure to know kind of when that is. And I would probably, if I could climb into your head, because you seem like an emotionally aware, sensitive person, I am going to guess that said conversations fall into three categories. One is category A, no problem. Oh yeah, I was talking to Abby the other day. Do you know that they went to Hawaii and blah 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 blah? Or you know, oh, I talked to so and so. They're in the hospital. You might want to give them a call. There are certain things that are not confidential. They're just sort of like that's how community works. We couldn't have a community if we couldn't spread things. I mean, COVID's not the only thing that spreads. I mean, good things spread too, right? We talk about stuff. That's good. Category A, where you're sure. And a lot of times we're sure. Category C, pretty simple. They've said, I wouldn't want you to share this with anybody. But I got to let you know, I was just diagnosed with something. And they've named it as something in confidence. Okay. Here's where you get in trouble. Category B, where I don't know. And as you have rightly pointed out, there's another factor in here. If you're going to tell somebody stuff in category B where you're not sure if that's okay with a person or not, there's an intent because sometimes people hear somebody shares a struggle, say they're having with another person in the family or the company or whatever. And what do they immediately do? Okay, well, that's great. Great that you told me that because I can pray for you or I can help or whatever. They hang up the phone, then immediately, you know what? I just talked to Sue. And the motive that they have to do that is either a trying to create pseudo intimacy. Because talking to another person about another person, sometimes people do that to kind of feel like, they're on the end and they're giving them something special and, blah, 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 blah. And that's BS. What you're doing is you're using that other person for your own gratification. Okay. So if that happens, you know, whatever that motive is, that's just not okay. That's that's just not okay. The other motive and intention that usually is really bad is when it's trying to be divisive. You're trying to form a coalition over here against that person or get them sideways with each other. The psychologists call that triangulation. Bible calls it gossip or divisiveness, but it's all the same. It doesn't go anywhere good. So first thing you have to do is look at your motive. Okay. Now, if you look at motive, category B becomes much more easier to deal with because you look at your motive and you say, you know what, so and so told me this. I'd really like to let Susie know about that because I think she could be really helpful, or I think she might know some people that could put us in touch with some people, and this, that, and the other. Do you see that motive? Okay. Now, if I know my motive is good, then what would keep me from picking up the phone and calling the person and saying, after we talked, I had a thought. I think Susie might be helpful with this. Do you mind if I talk to her? See, now we're on positive ground. You're not with a bad motive. You're not going to call and say, "Hey, you know what? I'd like to go gossip about you over here with Susie." So I would say, ask yourself, what category am I in? And if I'm not sure, then I either keep my mouth shut or I check it out. But see, if you have a good motive, you're probably going to check it out because you actually want to be helpful, but you don't feel to be help feel free to be helpful unless you go talk to them. Okay. Now, a cousin to this, a cousin to this, and you get this a lot, it's very important if somebody hurts you, talk to that person and not somebody else. But sometimes you need to process it with somebody in order. Let's say you're struggling with you got a problem with dad and you want to talk to him about it and this, that, and the other, but you don't really know how, and you're really hurting, and dad's not listening, and you're really wounded about it. And so, but your sister really understands. So you talk to your sister. But the motive of talking to your sister is for your sister to help you to deal with dad, not to create division between sister and dad. And so you have to look at the motive and you have to look at the fruit of the conversation. Sometimes we need to process stuff with a third party before we go back in and talk to the person. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that if the motive is good and the fruit of it is good. Sometimes we need healing. I mean, if you've been hurt by somebody, what do? Sometimes you go to a psychologist and you process that pain, you get healing because a hurtful party is not going to heal you. You need a third party. But it's not a relationship you're trying to break up. So a lot of things come into factor with this unicorn, and I'm really glad you brought this up because if we could stop a lot of this divisiveness and a lot of this triangulation and check ourselves, I have this happen all the time. There's mutual relationships and kind of think about what do you do when so and so does, and I have to check myself. Would that really be helpful? I don't want to talk to him. It's not going to be helpful. If there's not some good reason to do it, I like keeping confidences. So there you go. And here's the thing you want to do as well. If you're thinking about this in the big issue, like we talked about down there where I come from in the South, well, you got to have people whose character you can trust for your own healing. So we're talking about your character being trustworthy here. But it's also really important. Think about this. You are only going to heal to the degree that you have a safe, immunized, germ free healing space to be healed in, right? I mean, I can't get surgery without an operating room and a doctor. So all of your healing, we know, is going to be relational, right? Because it takes relationship to heal things. Therefore, if you don't have relationships that are 100% confidential, you really don't have an operating room to get healed in. So that's why it's so important for us to be building out. And on boundaries.me, I just put up a new course a couple of weeks ago about your people picker. And it's very important to be building that circle and picking people who can do this well so you can be healed. All righty. How about that? Let's do that. Thank you for that. Let me give the number out 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774 to get on the program. And they've asked me to keep reminding you because today's Cyber Monday, I guess, and we got a bunch of stuff going on there at boundaries.me. If you go check it out. All right, Wendy calling us from Michigan. Welcome to the program.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I am good, thank you.
So tell me how I can help you.
I listened to your course on boundaries.me, emotional tone, and I realized that maybe I may have emotional tone toward others, but I realized that this is something I've been suffering from for quite some time, how I interpret or how I
feels to you.
receive emotional tone from others.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm working on healing, but originally it would set me back 2 days, 3 days, where I would be just sad and crying. Now, thankfully, I can analyze it and talk myself through it, and it can take me down for half a day.
Hey,
so
we're gaining on it.
We're
gaining on it, Wendy.
I know.
Way to go. Before you go on, I want you to, just for the audience sake here, you got from, and what she means by emotional tone is I talk about how in this course on Boundaries Like Me, basically our whole system is wired to do a lot of good things if we sense a tone as being for us and loving and kind and accepting. I mean, everything just works better, including your brain. If we experience somebody's tone as being harsh or angry or toxic or guiltifying or something like that, then everything ceases to work, as well as it can tap into unnice tones inside your own head, which then turn around and shoot bullets at your heart, and you go down a black hole. Okay, right, Wendy? Right. So
right, exactly.
You've done some things, and I want you to do this fast because I want to get to your question, but you've done some things that have gotten you way past where you were in your vulnerability to tone deficits, right? So how did you do
Yes.
it? What did you do? Tell the audience. I want them to do this.
I prayed. And my first husband passed away 15 years ago, who was a narcissist and verbally abusive. So I prayed for a man that would meet qualifications that I needed in my life, that God would use to bring healing to my heart. And even though I told him I didn't believe it, because all men are liars, like David said, but I said, God, if you know there's such a person that can help me, then send him. And I met a wonderful man. And he has been the opposite of my first husband, and he has allowed me to kind of work through these things. Anger,
so relationship,
crying,
a loving relationship entered into the picture, right? And it sounds like you took the step of making yourself vulnerable in that loving relationship, both with him and with God.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stay there anymore. I was done.
Good for you.
I'm tired. I'm tired of feeling that way.
That's right. And I'm gonna add something to this, and we're going to go into great depth on this in the anxiety event on December 9th. And I want everybody to come join us for that. You can sign up at boundaries.me. But there's also an internal, and where a lot of anxiety and hurt, as you're experiencing, a lot of that comes from is that you have a system inside of you that gets activated that is kind of a compilation of pretty much all of your past experiences. And so if you've had past experiences when you were growing up or in adult life or with people or even trauma, those get locked into the emotional part of the brain, right? It's called the hippocampus,
Right.
and they're just really stored there. Then something comes along, somebody says something harsh to you. Well, that button gets pushed. It's called a trigger, but that button gets pushed in that network of memories. It might not have anything to do with anything. These memory networks look like spider webs, but it gets pushed, and then that original feeling that you had when you got shamed in front of the class, or when an alcoholic angry father was yelling at you or whatever, that whole system of emotional reactions to that and feelings and devastation, that just comes up, right? And it's automatic.
So true.
That's
so
how you feel, right, Wendy? And so what you've learned to do, you've gotten some space on that, and now you're observing it. As you said, you got some insight on it. And I'm just going to say, way to go, girl. You are getting there, and I've got great confidence on this last piece of it. So tell me your question.
How do I not allow others to step on my heart? It happens more at work because I work in a corporate environment, and you have people that are climbing the ladder or think there's something or think there's somebody, and micromanagers and, people that just almost like you can almost sense that they're just blowing themselves up and puffing themselves up. And
Yeah.
the things they say and how they just give direction makes, I'll walk away feeling really small and angry. And I'm screaming at my computer, like, how can you talk to me like that? And I'm not stupid.
So
I'm not a child. I'm smart.
That's right. That's right. You're not stupid. You're not small. You're not child. You're smart. So my hunch is this person at the office that's not the first time you've ever felt that, right?
Right.
And there were some significant relationships probably in your formative years. There were this one up and one down kind of dynamic, right?
Right.
And I would ask, has there been enough work done on processing those relationships and getting them out there with there's four important things here: naming the person, making it objective so it's not global. So that was dad, that was mom, that's mom's voice, or that's sister or brother or grandmother or Uncle Harry or whatever, or that's when I was bullied or whatever. You name it to make it objective. Number two, you name and process both the dynamics but the feelings of it. And so it's your brain is like a drain in a way, and it gets clogged up with this crap. And so the way, God designed the systems to get it out through tears, basically. And so there's the processing of that pain. Now, here's what's interesting about feelings is some people, those feeling states last forever. This is a paradox because they're never processed. And once you start to process them, okay, a feeling is only supposed to last, like, I forget what the research says. I'm going to say about 90 seconds before it's named and talked about, because it's a signal, and then it's named and it's talked about, and then it gets put into understanding. Now that might go through several cycles, but sometimes when things aren't named and understood, it's not 90 seconds, it's 90 years. And it can just live there as trauma. So I would want you to do a little more work on that. And the second thing, more practical. I mean, that's something you got to do for healing, but this is going to help you, I think, on the practical side. So, pretty much every day we take our dog for a couple of walks, right? There's we go by a bunch of yards. There's one yard we go by where the lady has three golden retrievers that just love Finley, our dog. And she goes up to that fence and she sticks her head over it, and they start kissing each other. And the lady comes out, says, "Come on in." And we go into the yard, and the dogs have a play date, and they just go crazy and have the best time. There's another yard you can walk by where there's a big, ugly, mean dog in there. All right. As we approach that fence, we're not open to going in. We're saying, "Oh, here comes the mean dog." I don't want Finley to even have that experience because I want her to feel good about other dogs. And so we minimize the interaction. We might walk around it. We might go down the other side of the street, or we might walk fast, or we might distract her, or whatever. But we don't treat every dog the same internally. So I want you to actually sit down and write down on a sheet of paper, preferably with somebody that you trust. Write down, okay, this is Mary, this is Susie, this is Rhonda, this is Tiffany. She thinks she's better than everybody. She's critical. She's got a harsh tone. And name them, okay? And so then when you see them coming inside, you're not vulnerable at all, are you? Go, here comes the critical one. And I would play a game. I'd say, I wonder how long it's going to be before she makes a statement that makes her look cool and everybody else look bad. It's almost like a drinking game.
That's good. That's really good.
So you're getting in a different mode. And then I want you to observe it. and then I want you to observe it. And when it happens, say, oh, there it is again. My tendency here, my trigger would be to start feeling this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go get distracted or call a friend or this, that, and the other. Because there's no value in going down that trail. It's just an old memory replaying. And you want to reduce, you also want to reduce the amounts of time. See, in your brain, the more you play a file, the stronger that file gets. So if it's not being healed. So if you say, I'm not going to click on that icon, it would almost be like if you had, let's say you had Google and you had Safari, or Chrome and Safari, Explorer and Safari. You got two different browsers on your computer. Well, the more you click on one of them, that one's going to automatically get stronger, and it's going to just open up. It's going to take over. Now, that actually is the way, is the way the tech companies do this to you. So this isn't fantasy. They do control you the more you, but see, that's how your brain is. So when you let it go down that path, you're strengthening it. So I also want you, if you do get triggered, to talk about it and then get distracted and go down a different path and tell yourself all the right things. But there's a few tricks that you can do to ward this off.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I'm proud of you.
It's like by writing it. Yeah, thank you. So it's like by writing it down, I'm preparing myself and they don't catch me by surprise.
That's right. That's right. And you're also not going to treat everybody the same. Sounds like you're a woman of faith. Right?
I am. All
right, here's my Bible.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna give you a Sunday school assignment. Ready?
All right. I'm ready.
Go to Psalm 101.
Okay.
In that psalm, David lists all the people in his corporate environment he ain't gonna even talk to. The proud, the arrogant, the faithless, the liars, the divisive ones. He just lists them. And then he says, these people over here, they're going to be the ones I hang out with. If you do that in your head, that's building an immune system to hurtful people. All right? Wendy, thank you for your call. I'm sure that's going to be, you too. I'm sure it's going to be very, very helpful to a lot of people. A lot of people. Hey, guys, I don't know if you've been outside lately, but not everybody's the same. Not everybody's, like she said, all men are liars. That's not true. I mean, if it's in the way that chronic liars, I mean, is every human probably told a lie at some point? Yeah. Okay, so all men are liars. But there are trustworthy, honest people. And some people think all people are dishonest. You can't trust any of them. They have very small lives, people who think that. Other people make the opposite thing. They trust everybody. They just see the good in everybody. Believe the best. All this stuff that makes no sense. No sense at all. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Why? They've never done anything but hurt people. Why would I think this time's going to be any different? See, we have to be objective about evaluating people. That's why on boundaries.me, I have so much material on how to diagnose different characters in your life to know who do you trust and who you can't trust. Okay? It's important. So don't make the mistake of thinking that everyone's trustworthy or thinking that you can share and be vulnerable with everybody just because they may look like you can. Some people stab you in the back. One of my favorite verses is a warning about that. About people that flatter you, Proverbs says, actually hate you. And they're going to get you. So if you got somebody that's always trying to make you feel good, always flattering you, oh, you're so awesome, this, that, no, you better watch out because that other shoe is going to drop at some point. We want people that are honest with us. And they're honest with us for good intention and good motive because they care about us and they'll tell us hard things. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. Appreciate that. Go to the dentist. Looks in there. She goes, ooh, this is not good. Well, What if they were a flatterer? Oh, that's such a beautiful tooth. I'll see you in 6 months. No, somebody that loves us is going to tell us hard things because they're going to be part of fixing it. But somebody that won't tell you hard things, right? Out of love. In other words, people that if they don't love you enough to tell you the hard things, or people that only say hurtful things, you don't want either one of them. It's not who's going to help you. So pick your people better. All right. Heather, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show. How can I help you?
Hey. Hello.
How are you?
Hey, Dr. Cloud. I'm
Good to have
okay.
you.
How are you? Good.
I'm very well, thank you. How can I help you?
Happy to get to talk to you. So I am, my question is, how do I deal with the guilt of, okay, so I've set boundaries, healthy boundaries, by not helping my soon-to-be ex-husband, who is very toxic. So, but I'm really, really struggling with the guilt, or maybe it's false guilt. I don't know.
Well, did you do something wrong?
No. Actually, I feel like I'm really doing the right thing. As hard as it is,
Okay.
I feel like I'm making the right choice.
Okay, and you've had good people that you trust that have your welfare and the relationship's welfare in the conversation that you have gone through all this with, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so without going into all the details for the sake of time, that you have decided, well, among a lot of bad choices, this is the least bad choice, right? You know what I mean by that. There aren't any good options here, but this is the most life-giving option for all those involved.
Yeah.
And grounds for it and reasons for it. And you have done the progressive thing to try to do everything possible to get him to come to the table. You've talked to him. You've invited him to counseling. You've said you're committed to this. You've brought others involved to help. You've done everything possible. And he says, I just don't want to come to any resolution. Okay. If you've done all that, then you can know that, okay, so whatever I am feeling is not coming from doing something wrong. You follow me?
Yes. Okay.
And then you can be curious. I wonder why, if I'm doing something good and something that actually, the way I look at it, I don't know if you're a person of faith or not, but I always judge that by, am I doing what God told me to do here? If I'm doing everything that I know is good and I'm following his orders, then I must be feeling bad for some other reason. What would that reason be? And so that's when we pull it out of the actual problem solving. Because what happens is when people's guilt gets mixed up in their boundaries in the decision making process, then that's like, whoa, a lot of contamination into what needs to be a pure decision. So you got to make the decision really, how can you say this? It's not without your heart, but it's not only with your heart. You know,
right. Yeah.
Sometimes people's feelings are way different than what's right. They can be over enabling out of love when it's not the right thing.
Which I did.
Yeah.
For a long time. Yeah.
Or they can be over punitive out of hurt, which is not the right thing to do. So we can't just listen to our feelings, but I do want to make the decision. But I do want you to listen to your feelings. So where did you learn to feel guilty about basically not receiving pain from someone?
Hmm.
Right? That's a good question.
I don't know. It's a really good question. Really good question.
Where did you learn?
I think I always tried to make him so happy, or everyone really, but make everyone so happy all the time that, and I can't do that. It's not humanly possible. So,
if you could pull that off, we'd put you in jail because.
Right.
Well, think about this. Let's say that you're going to try to make a terrorist cell happy.
Mm.
You're putting all of us in danger.
Right.
Right. So the goal to make everybody happy is one of the most destructive goals there could be. But I would venture to say that not only do you feel the pressure to make somebody happy, you also probably in some way grew up that feel like if you do something that frustrates somebody, like saying no, for example, that you're responsible for their frustration. If they get mad, that's because you made them mad. You caused this. You're depriving them. And I would start to look at drawing some boundaries around what you're responsible for and what somebody else is responsible for. And I would unpack the relationships where you learn that as well.
Okay.
All righty.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I like that question.
Yeah, a lot of times
I know that it's not probably really I'm not doing anything wrong. It just feels wrong because I've said no. I can't talk to you. No, no more texting. No more. Like each boundary has gotten tighter and tighter and tighter to where we just really have no contact unless we're dealing with our kids. Co-parenting, and it's just it's hard.
Unfortunately, that is exactly, and I don't know if it fits you or not. I don't know all the specifics of this, but that is exactly the progression that the Bible describes. There's a progression all the way from talking to somebody and resolving it to bringing other people in a process. And if they continue to refuse or continue to be hurtful, then there is a stopping talking, and that is prescribed. And so I don't know if you're applying that right or not, but just in concept,
Matthew 18.
That's not a bad thing. So anyway, now if you flip it, it is.
Okay.
Somebody makes you mad, you give them the silent treatment, and you're not willing to work it out. That's a different deal.
Right.
Okay. I hope that's helpful to you. Hope that's helpful to you. Go find out where those voices come from, and let's get to some freedom here. Thank you for your call. One of the things about all of this, guys, is let me remind you of something. Okay, let me remind you something. Freedom. Freedom is, I don't want to say it like this because it's not exactly right, but it's right. I started to say freedom is kind of like the highest value, but it's not the highest value. Love is the highest value, but freedom is the value that becomes the possibility that love can exist. All right. If we aren't free, we can't love. If I'm only doing something good for you because I'm not free to not do it, then I'm only doing it because I feel some sort of manipulation, some sort of control, some sort of fear, and I'm just giving in to you to protect myself. That's not love. Love requires freedom. Ultimately, as a person of faith, the biggest, and I have conversations with people about faith all the time. I don't understand how somebody can't believe in God. I mean, when you look at an eyelash, come on. But I mean, when you get into all the particulars, and I don't understand it, but I understand it. I mean, I listen, I understand. I mean, I really do understand that's true for some people. They just can't believe this. But one of the big reasons that you run into is they ultimately run into this thing. If God is good and God is all powerful, how can he allow all of this pain to exist when he could do something about it, or he could have prevented it? Okay. And what you're going to do is, when you go through all of the philosophical blenders that you have to get to in that ultimately it comes down to love. That the only way God created mankind so that we could be in a love relationship. And the only way that we are free to love someone is if we're free to love them and free to not love them. See, if he prevented us from blowing him off, from rejecting him, and when you reject everything good, you're going to end up with bad stuff. We're going to end up with pain. It'd be like, it's like my kids. I want them to grow up, and to grow up, you got to be free. So to be free, I send them out in the backyard. I don't put them on a leash. I don't control them. But they also, if they're free, they poke their sister in the eye, right? Now do everything to try to tell them, help them not to do that. But if I'm always holding their arms, they're not free at all. And so freedom and love have to go together. That's the risk that God took. And we use our freedom to blow him off. We end up with pain and destruction. Now he's also come back and said, I'm going to do it again. Okay, I'm going to freely give you a choice to come back into a love relationship. Because that's the only way, it's the only way it can work. So, back to our caller, when Heather's dealing with guilt, if your no is not free of guilt, of fear, of all these dynamics, if you can't freely say no, then your yes doesn't ever mean anything. It doesn't. We just automatically, whatever somebody wants, I'll do it. Well, they're never going to feel loved by that, because you're not doing it out of choice. One of my favorite verses, talking about giving, 2 Corinthians 9, it says, give as you have purposed in your heart, not begrudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Begrudgingly means that we're giving to somebody because they're pressuring us, and we don't give, we give in. And when you give in to pressure, manipulation, then you hold a grudge. It's just physics. You can't freaking give in to control without not liking it. It won't work. It won't work. As a parenting style, as a marriage style, as a management style, as a human style. When we are pressuring people into giving in, there will be an equal and opposite reaction, even if it only lives in their own heart. It won't work. Okay? So don't give begrudgingly. And the next part of the verse is, or under compulsion, meaning they're not pressuring me. I feel a compulsion in my own head. The voices are making me do it. The voices won't let me say no. The voices attack me if I say no. Both cases, I'm not free. One of my favorite verses, Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And then he said, anything beyond that is from the evil one. Now you think about that. A pure yes and a pure no come from a pure heart. And we start having to dance it around and control it, massage it, manipulate it, and all this, then there ain't something impure going on there. And no is a complete sentence. You don't have to justify it. A lot of times we explain it. You don't have to justify it. Important stuff. All righty, let's go back to the phones here. We are going to be talking to, let's see, where in the world are we? We're going to talk to Tina, who's calling us from Texas. I lived in Texas for a while when I went to college. There's some nice people in Texas. Tina, welcome to the program.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call.
You're very welcome. How can I help you?
Well, I'm in a marriage with my husband of now 2 years. And it was kind of crazy from the beginning. I mean, I was in an unhealthy place when I met him, so kind of rushed things, had just gone out of an abusive marriage. So he was the opposite of what my then husband was, my ex-husband, who was also an addict.
Oh.
And when I met him, he was
Hey, Tina.
Yes.
Can I just underline something you said there? You know, you said I can't remember your phrase, but you said you kind of went too fast, right?
Hello.
Do you have a speakerphone on in the back? We're getting feedback here. Are you there?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't hear that.
That sounds better. So I just want to highlight what you've said so other people can hear Tina tell them that if you got a bad relationship and it ends and you get out of it, take some time to do the healing and learning that you need to do before you get into another one. Is that fair, Tina?
Yes, very fair. I wish I could warn everybody.
Yeah, well, you just did.
Slow
you just
down
did. And I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it because that's kind of what we say on this show. The audience, audience on this show is a growing audience. They care about issues, but the callers actually, you give us the stuff for us to work on. And I really want to thank you for sharing that for others. So, okay, so you got in this other relationship and now what's going on? How can I help?
Well, we've been separated now it was a continual cycle of, he's a heroin addict, first of all.
Wow.
And we were
was he on heroin when you guys got married?
No, there was some relapsing, but I thought, kind of like the other caller, give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And I didn't meet him. We met in church, which by listening to your program, that doesn't mean anything. But because my desire was always a man of God, I fell for everything he portrayed himself as. Or really, I hope down there, like deep down, I know he's there. He's just right now lost in this addiction.
Yeah. I was also going to say, just because he's a heroin addict doesn't necessarily mean he isn't a man of God. He might be a man of God who's addicted to heroin also. That's possible.
Yeah. And that's, what I want to.
It doesn't let him off the reality hook of that he's addicted to heroin. Right. So
right now where we're at right now is 18 months of not 18 months of separation. 5 months of separation. I drew the line and I told him I can't continue to go down this cycle. We have been down this cycle since we've been married. He would go to rehab, to a recovery home really, get out, be okay for about 3 months and then relapse, and the cycle he would be out in the town where he's from and stay down there for 2 to 3 months and then come back. And so I put an end to that cycle. And
so he would hold on a second. He'd leave rehab, and then would he quit the recovery program? Because you're supposed to stay in the program even after you leave rehab. Right. Would he drop out of his groups and his sponsorships and his work and all that?
He was not committed to a
process.
Uh, right, right.
Okay. And
This
so
was like
in those 2 months, would he disappear from you?
he would come home. He would come home and he would do good for a little bit, and then the he would slowly start going back to his old ways, and then it would get out of control again, and um, he would use, and I would not be okay with it. So he would leave and stay gone for 2 to 3 months. So that cycle went on for about 18 months. The longest that we've lived together is 6 months of our marriage.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the question?
The question is so right now he's in active addiction, but I know he's coming to an end.
We lost you. Tina?
Hey, Henry, let me try and get her back.
I don't know what happened there. We lost Tina, so I'm going to, we'll give it a couple of seconds here.
I'm not getting her, Henry. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just talk about the issue here. There's just been this on again, off again, on again thing. What I just initially on what you've said is somehow he gets back in the house, right? And so basically, I would hit reset on how you get back in. You don't get back in if you're not in the process. Just because somebody goes to rehab doesn't mean that they're done. I mean, heroin, there's a lot of different kinds of addictions, but heroin is one of the most powerful. One of the most powerful. And if you've never known anybody that's a heroin addict, then you don't know how difficult this one is. It is a big deal. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be beaten. It can, and it does, but not without some really, 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 really strong and serious, kinds of ways to set up a program and stick to it. Okay. So basically what I would do here is I would, I'd make it so that there's no like believing it, getting back in. The continuing in the process is the only way that I'll be engaged with you. It's kind of the bottom line. And Tina, if you're still listening, that would be, what's important. See, what people do is a lot of times people get sober, then they let them back in and they start to talk to them, this, that, and the other. But your relationship is going to be one long term of requiring that he's in the process, even after he's been sober. Because he's got to stay in it or he's going to relapse. Right. And so that needs to be a part of the structure to this. So that sounded like to me that's probably the missing piece. So just say, yeah, I'm willing to work on this. I'm only willing to talk to you and work with you when you are going to all the prescribed process. And what I would do is I'd go to my book Necessary Endings, and there is a chapter in there of when you can have hope and how to determine if you can have hope that somebody's going to get better. And the way you can have hope that somebody's going to get better is there's going to be some very specific criteria, because what people do is they hope that somebody's going to stay sober. Well, is that hope? As I always say it, is that hope or is that a wish? Of course, we want that. People say, "Oh, I hope he stays sober." Well, you're not really hoping, you're wishing. You can have hope if there are objective reasons to have hope. And there are objective reasons to have hope. Is somebody admitting their need? Are they going for help? Are they getting their own program together? Are they the ones that are driving it and you're not having to drive it? Is it a proven process that they're in? Are there ways of validating that they are still in that process? you go in that book and you look at look at that criteria list, and you sit down with your husband and say, here's when we're going to be engaging, when I can go check, 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 check. I can have hope. If something's missing in there, then we're wishing and we're not hoping. So that's really, really important, I think, for a lot of people. So let's, I don't know if we have time to take another caller here. Let me see what we've got. Have we got, we got a lot of people that I want to talk to. Let's see if we can go really, really fast with Ruth, who's calling us from Florida. Ruth, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show. Are you there? Hello,
Ruth,
hello.
I'm here.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi. Hi.
How are
you?
So
I got on.
I am.
I'm okay. Yeah. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome. Tell me how I can help you, but you got to tell me fast because we are kind of up against the clock here.
Oh golly. Well, this is years in the making. I'm in a situation with my daughter-in-law and now with my son. Over the past 14 years, we've had little conflicts, but they have just gradually gotten worse and worse and worse, and escalated to a point now to where, our son is, we feel like he's against us now. And for a while, we felt like he understood the situation, and because we all felt like it was just a situation where an in-law is just trying to fit into a new family. But it's so past that now, and we can't see our grandchildren. And our business now, we have a family business, and our business is affected by this, the relationship with our son and me and my husband, his dad. And so I don't know where to proceed. I feel like the kicker is with our son. He's the one that can make a difference in this. But now that that relationship is strained,
well,
I don't know where to go.
What is the problem?
Well, the problem has changed throughout the years. In the beginning, it was the problem was between she and my daughter, and she would confront my daughter on things that she felt my daughter. No, she is not. And she hasn't even lived in our area for part of the time.
So it's a problem between sisters-in-laws, right? Sisters-in-law.
Well, yeah, that's where it started. And
okay.
Then
now I probably can't go through the whole progression, but the problem is she's having a problem with your daughter. Somehow that turns into the whole family's not talking.
Yes. Well, the problem shifted from my daughter. Then it shifted to the grandparents. We weren't doing enough. And so she would confront us. And then but it did go back to our daughter. So it shifts back and forth. But now it's all of us.
So what is she? The basic problem is she's upset with you guys and wants you to do something that you won't do. Is that kind of the problem?
Well, honestly, now what has come out, always before it was specific things. It's you did this and I'm upset about it. You did that. You don't do this. You don't spend enough time with our kids. You don't do enough for us, or you do too much for us. It's just a moving target. The bar is changing all the time. But now the whole thing has settled down into she has never felt accepted by us. And it stemmed from a conversation we had before she and my son got married. And I totally understand how she interpreted something, but some things that we said,
mm-hmm.
And that's a whole big story, but it's not craziness. It's just when you don't know, anyway, it all stemmed from that conversation. Now, 14 years later, she's holding on to that, like, you never have accepted me. And, we have apologized. We've seen it from.
So you've apologized. Said I do accept you. I'm sorry that it felt that way. You've listened to her feelings. You said I want to have a good relationship with you. What can we do? How can we make it better?
Yes.
And she says what?
Well, whatever it is she says at the time, then we do. So every suggestion she has made with the kids, we've done that, and they were great suggestions. But it will shift around. So once we make an adjustment somewhere, then it'll go back to, well, your daughter is, and she'll say she's an alcoholic, or she's not a good mom, or, I can't trust her to the grandkids, both sets of grandkids have great relationships together. So we would always get them together. Well, now she wouldn't let them get together because my daughter's not a good mom.
And so where's your son in all this?
Well, now he's at odds with us. When we, like, the last thing that happened was just a couple days ago, and we contacted him by text and wanted to pick the kids up to see them for the weekend, on the weekend. And he texted back was, that won't work. And so that was short and abrupt. Usually there's well, that won't work because we've got other plans, or we're doing this or that.
Yeah.
So then my husband texted back and just let him know that hurt. I won't do this anymore, because that this isn't the first time. And then my son texts back, well, it was the last minute. You don't have to be hurt about it. We've got plans. Maybe I should have. He just answered sarcastically. So
your husband, I mean your son is somewhat soft-hearted and open and tries. It sounds like.
Well, he used to. He's not trying anymore. His answers and his demeanor and his attitude are.
And unfortunately, we're out of time here, and this is you've got 3 or 4 things that really make this difficult. One is, it sounds like you're all in a family business together, so everybody's livelihood is involved. You've got a relationship between siblings, basically, that you're getting pulled into and triangulated in. And then you've got your son who's caught between two people that are really, really important to him. Obviously his wife and his parents. What third party help have you guys gotten on this?
Well, I started in individual counseling, and she suggested that the 3 women get together. And so
the counselor suggested, or your daughter-in-law suggested?
No, the counselor suggested, and my daughter-in-law agreed to it. So we all 3 did that, but our counselor was pregnant, and she had her baby early. So I think we had 4 sessions total.
Okay. So you had a false start.
We had a false start. And now, because of COVID, she can't meet with us anymore. So I contacted another counselor, and we then wanted all of us to get together. Not my daughter, but my son, my daughter-in-law, my husband, and me. And that counselor agreed, but he wanted to meet with us individually. Well, he started with me, and at the end of my session, he said, I'm sorry, but this is not a good prognosis. He said, if you had cancer, you're stage 4 and you're ready for hospice. So that just burst my bubble. And good counselors are hard to find. And this, like you said, this is really hard to find.
Yeah. Let me just, and unfortunately I do have to stop. But here's what I would say. I hate to say this, because like you said, they're hard to find. But given what you've described, I don't think it's stage 4 cancer necessarily, right? I think that first of all, an optimist. Secondly, humans can change, and when they get good guidance and have some paths to get through some of these things that they haven't seen open up before, then a lot of good things can happen. But I do think you need some skilled help in this. And so, what I would say that is sort of what was the word I used? Discouraging. I I I don't I don't give it a lot of hope for just the parties involved in the conflict alone to work this out, because that's been happening for 14 years, and that the forces that they're not in the room. I think what you're going to really have to do is find a good third party who knows how to unravel stuff like this. And so what I would do is I would do exactly what you've done, and I would say to them, look, guys, I'm saddened that we're in a place where our relationships have become painful. We have so much good here. We have a business together. We have family. We look at all these wonderful grandkids, and there's so much good that we can enjoy if we could just get together and working out our differences and find the things that we hold in common, and use those things we hold in common and care about, to resolve this. And so that's what I want to do. So I really would like to, we've had a couple of false starts, but that doesn't mean just because you go to a bad restaurant that you never eat food again, right? So we're going to go on search, and I'm going to try to find a good family or family business counselor who can help us with this. And what I would like is I'd like to know everybody's buy-in. And if you're committed to the process, then let's take that step. So the main thing I think that you can do now is that you could ask them to be committed with you to engage in the process. Now, the second thing I would do also very specifically is I would ask them, and I know you've done this before, but I would ask them, in the meantime, what could we do that would make this better? And just ask them and find out what it is. And I would ask them. And then I would say, and I would agree, if you can do that. Some things you can't do. You're in a hostage negotiation sometimes, right? You just can't agree to whatever BS somebody comes up with. But it might be something you actually can do. Then what I would do, Ruth, is I would add to that this. Okay, so help me here. If we do that, and then that doesn't prove satisfactory, what shall we do then? Because that's the pattern that you keep running into. The bar moves.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so I would try to get them to think about solving that problem, because that's really their problem. If somebody says, look, if you walk over to the right instead of the left, we'll be fine. You walk over to the right and then you're not fine. Well, then that's their problem. So we want to, without blaming them, we want to get them involved in solving that problem. So I would put it back and say, okay, that's great. I can do that. Now, if that doesn't do it, then tell me, what would you suggest we do then? And see what they say. And I'd put that back on them, all the while getting the agreement to go get some help. And I would ask that also to your son. I'd ask the second question to your son. Look, I know you're in a lot of pressure here. It's your family. It's all of this, that, and the other. We're just really wanting to make this work, and we really don't know what to do. Can you tell us, what do you want us to do? And then I just throw up the powerless hands. Tell me what to do. Because you want to get them involved in their coming up with and naming the solution, instead of you trying to solve it and then they devalue the solution. So we're going to shift the physics here. And then you have something hopefully that you can work on. Unfortunately, I got to go, but I hope that's helpful to you. It is very complicated.
Very helpful.
Well, it's complicated. About probably 25% of my work is spent in family businesses, because they're very, very difficult, because you've got people that have thrown their livelihood into this, and especially when you're going, from G1 to G2 and G3, and they're going down the generations, and it's complicated. And I would probably, in my search, try to find somebody who knows how to do that. So we wish you well. Thank you for your call. Wish we had more time. Families are fun. Right? They actually are, but sometimes get difficult as well. All righty. Well, here we are. We're starting down the path. We're heading off down the road to the rest of the year. Today is sort of like the big launch after the first hump. You're on a roller coaster. You go past Thanksgiving, and then you're down towards the rest of the holidays. I hope they go well for you. If you go to boundaries.me, we have a lot of stuff to prepare you. Some of you this is a little secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. Some of you, because of family, extended family, friendships, in-laws, stuff like that, some of you, as you go into the holidays, you're going to be dealing with some dysfunctional people. Little secret. I thought I'd let you in on it, but you don't have to go unprepared. So we have several courses that will help you to do that on boundaries.me. Also, today's Cyber Monday, and it's going to be the last day, my understanding, for certain specials that we have, including a lifetime membership, as long as we're around and doing it. Be hard to do after that. But anyway, as long as we're there, lifetime membership that also bundles a bunch of stuff for you that if you bought all the pieces, it would be huge. But if you're a lifetime member, you get access to the whole thing. And then there's specials on the one-day events and a lot of different stuff. All you got to do is go to boundaries.me to check it out and find all that stuff that's there. And we hope you join. The Black Friday weekend sale ends today. This is the last day that all that happens. So go do it. All right, guys. Once again, thanks to y'all. It's not the end of the year, but we're getting closer. I look back over this year and COVID, and we started this program during COVID because live events with audiences basically disappeared. And that was a lot of what I do. I get to talk to you guys out there on the road, different places, and I'm looking there and go, I miss my peeps. I got to talk to my peeps. How can we talk to my peeps? And so we started this. And you know what? It's been one of the most fun things I get to do, talking to you and the callers and seeing your interactions and just the way that you care about getting better. And there's so many of you that are such, people of light, that you want to spread goodness. You're trying to heal relationships, and you're trying to get better. And you're just so awesome. I love reading your comments, the care you have for one another, the wisdom that you share, all of that stuff. And it has been my privilege to be with you in the last however many months we've been doing this. We're up to 100 and something episodes now. I don't know what they are. And it's been great. It's been great. So share the program with others, download it as a podcast, boundaries.me podcast, and help us to continue to build the audience. And as long as it's building and, working well and everybody's liking it, and we'll keep doing it. Okay. Until then, which means tomorrow, have a good one, and I will see you then. Okay. Bye-bye.